Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. I'm Pastor Moacir Werich. I'm a pastor at the church up the streets. I'm a resident of this neighborhood. I'm also living just up the street on Lafayette Street. And I'm also representing Faith in New Jersey, who is an organization who gathers many faith communities and many organizations that fight for justice and for a better life for all of us these days. Psalm 24 says, "The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it, in the world, and those who live in it. For he has founded it on the seas and established it on the rivers. Del Señor es el mundo entero con todo lo que él hay, con todo lo que en él vive, porque el Señor puso las bases de la tierra y la firmó sobre los mares y los ríos." As I mentioned, I'm here as a member of this community and a partner in this fight for justice this day. And I just want to welcome all of you, and I want to welcome our elected officials who are here. Yeah. And I want to say, as a pastor, that you are doing holy work. You are doing holy work. You are standing on holy ground because the whole earth, everything belongs to the Most High, and we are called to respect. I have a question to the Passaic Valley Sewage Company Commission. Which part of our message do you not understand? The community has come out here for months. Our elected officials, many of them have spoken out that we don't want this, that we don't need this. There are better options. Come out to our community, see the children walking around, see the elderly, and tell them that you are ready to bring more pollution to this place. No, I don't think so. We don't need that. We don't want that. So as a pastor, I pray to God to give us the strength to continue to shout out for justice. I ask God to bless us with His strength through the Holy Spirit, so that we can continue to raise our voices, to say no for this project, for this power plant, who is going to bring more pollution to our community. Our church just up the street have spent thousands of dollars over the years because we have a yard contaminated with lead. Did we, the church, bring the lead there? No. But the irresponsibility of companies who brought the lead there. And the same way, this project is going to bring more pollution to our community. So we ask God to bless you all, especially our leaders, our partners. I see ICC here. I see New Labor present also, Faith in New Jersey, and our elected officials who are here. I ask God to bless you, to continue the strength, and I ask that we may pray that God may give wisdom to those who are going to vote on this project, that we can finally stop this nonsense in our community. Thank you so much for coming out here, and may God bless you all, and maybe be able to stop this, and maybe be able to create a new community with open, green spaces, places that are healthy for our community, not this pollution. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Good morning, everyone. My name is JV Valladolid. I am the Frontline Communications Manager with the Ironbound Community Corporation Environmental Justice and Community Development Team. I'm your moderator this morning. I'm a Newark native person, first generation, and I unfortunately, but fortunately at the same time, have been fighting alongside my colleagues here today and the community and thousands of people who have been opposing the PVSC fourth power plant proposal for our community. We have elected officials who are here today as well, who have also voiced their opposition. Our Black and brown leaders, our Black and brown community, our community made up of immigrants, of queer and trans folks. It's a community that I deeply love. It's a community that, as a pregnant person, I plan to raise my family in. But at the same time, I know that this community has been fighting longer than these 4 years that PVSC has put this proposal in our neighborhood. We've been fighting for decades. We've been fighting against the emissions of all of the things you see and smell around us, including this fourth power plant. But it's things that lead to cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular issues, reproductive health issues, developmental issues, and premature death. And so when you look to the left of this flood wall, which is part of what PVSC has done to actually try to prevent what they say they're trying to do, which is prevent power outages through superstorms, you see a mural which has Black and brown children on it, which at best is an insulting joke. We don't need another contaminating facility to enter our community, and so it's that, if that's not reason enough, it's the best reason to be here today together to continue fighting against this. So thank you, and with that, I would like to pass it over to our next speaker, which is Ironbound Community Corporation's CEO, Hazel Applewhite.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Great. Good to see all. Just really want to first thank you all for being here. Thank you to the elected officials. I do see Ms. Ruiz in the audience. I also see Ms. Pintor-Marin. I know that our East Ward Councilman will be here soon, so just really thanking them in their absence and also shouting out our partners. I don't want to miss anyone, but New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, SWIA, Food and Water Watch. We also have our partner Earth Justice here. We have all been in this fight for a very, very long time. Like our communications, frontline communications manager JV said, it's over a decade that we've been fighting for a clean air, right? A community that's not leaded with environmental justice, because at the end of the day, if you look up what environmental justice stands for, this is environmental injustice, right? We want environmental justice. We want our community to be a space that our children can thrive in. When we talk about the future of our kids, we want a community where, you know, the asthma rate is not high. And a lot of folks may say that the asthma rate, you can't assimilate it to what's happening here. But when we look at the high rate of asthma, right, and what the statistic tells us, right, when you're breathing air such as this, which is full of fossil fuel and not, you know, really clean air, right, it has a deep, deep, deep impact in your health. My name is Hazel Applewhite, CEO for Ironbound Community Corporation. I also want to just touch on, I also want to touch on the fact that Ironbound has not only fought this fight, but also fights around all the other incinerators that have been built in the Ironbound or attempted to be built in the Ironbound. Newark is an overburdened community, right? There is 3 existing fossil fuel plants. New Jersey's largest garbage incinerator, and numerous pollution facilities. This project only makes things worse. I've also started talking about the public health that is at risk. The fact that 1 in 4 children will develop asthma. Pollution also contributes to heart diseases, cancer, reproductive issues. We know that, you know, some may say and, you know, constantly try to, you know, challenge reproductive rights, right? But if you want to reproduce, right, you should be doing it in a safe space, right? Breathe in clean air. That is your choice. clean air should be not something that's basically designated by owners of pollution site, right? But it should be a normal standard act for the citizens that live in our community. We want safer and we want cleaner alternatives. PVSC proposed a plant would cost $118 million, while a combination of solar and battery storage would cost something like $36 million. So yes, guys, there is other alternative outside of fossil fuel, and we encourage PVSC to look into those other alternatives instead of forcing another fossil fuel plant down our throat. The community have spoken from decades that they don't want this, and it should not happen. Community voices are important, your voices are important, and we encourage PVSC to hear the community, partner with the community, right, and come up with a solution that's a solution for all. I want to thank you again for being here. Thank you for standing up with us for environmental justice and not environmental injustice. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we're just going to have another one of our Ironbound Community Corporation colleagues up here, Chloe Desir, policy analyst with the Environmental Justice and Community Development team, who's been co-leading this fight for nearly 4 years now.
Good morning, y'all. Good morning. When I say what do we want, y'all say clean air. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Period. Okay. Thank you all for coming out today. We are here once again to demand that Passaic Valley Sewage Commission put an end to a threat that has been looming over our heads for over 3 years now. The threat of adding yet another harmful, polluting facility to the Ironbound of Newark. We are asking that PVSC let Newark breathe. We are amplifying a message our community has been shouting at the top of our lungs for decades, long before PVSC even proposed yet another fossil fuel power plant in this industrial zone known as Chemical Corridor. The Ironbound has been fighting and will continue to fight for clean air in Newark. This is our message. For over 40 years, the EJ team at ICC and the people of the Ironbound have marched in the streets, organized in our neighborhoods, and fought for environmental justice across New Jersey. And yet, PVSC continues to ignore us, even after over 3 years of community opposition to their toxic plan, threatening the health of Newark and surrounding communities with yet another polluting facility. To live in the Ironbound is to live with the state's largest garbage incinerator, the third largest seaport on the East Coast, and an endless stream of diesel trucks, as we can see here today, spewing emissions into our streets, all for profits that drive through and out of our city. Newark already has 3 fossil fuel power plants, and now PVSC wants to build a 4th in a community suffering from the highest asthma rates in the state and alarming levels of premature deaths due to air pollution. How is this even a question? How are we yet again asking that Newark stop being used as a dumping ground for toxic pollution? I didn't always personally recognize that I was a part of an environmental justice community, being from Elizabeth, but since joining this fight and starting my work here, I have come to love this city so deeply. I've grown to love the work of continuing the legacy of advocacy rooted in the Ironbound. It is an honor and a privilege to carry this fight for clean air for all, just as I would fight for this right for any of my own neighbors. I've seen the Ironbound and Newark community oppose this project since my first day at ICC, almost 4 years ago at this point. For over 3 years, organizing alongside allies and partners, showing up to monthly PVSC board meetings, testifying not just to the commissioners, but to the DEP, demanding that decision makers listen to the demands and concerns of the community. And still, we are forced to argue for what we should see as common sense. Newark does not want, need, nor will we accept a fourth power plant in a community already poisoned by pollution, environmental racism, and the devastating health impacts that come with them. We should not have to beg for something as basic as clean air, especially from a department dedicated to environmental protection. Our right to breathe should never be up for debate. The right to breathe clean air should be a matter that's not about politics. To those in power who still have a choice to make, especially the PVSC board, who soon decide Newark's fate, know this: the people of Newark will not forget where you stood. We will remember who chose to protect us and who turned their backs. With recent threats to close the EJ offices at EPA, it is up to you at PVSC to vote no against this project as is. We are not alone in this fight. The mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka, Newark City Council, who has already passed a unanimous resolution against this project, we haven't just said no. We have brought real, expert-led, and viable alternatives to the table. Battery storage, solar energy, renewable solutions that will provide power without further poisoning our air. And yet these solutions seem to have been dismissed, not because they wouldn't work, but because profit would be prioritized over people. Because Black and brown communities like the Ironbound are expected to bear the burden of New Jersey's waste and energy needs and choke under its weight. We have endured enough. The rancid smells, the soot, the toxic emissions, the never-ending truck traffic. This is what environmental racism looks like. But today we say that of all of the communities across the state can join us in building what environmental justice can look like. We ask that we come together as a garden state, that we will not stand by idly as this community continues to fight for our lives, to fight for clean air. Tell the PVSC board to vote no against the construction of a fourth power plant. Tell PVSC to let Newark breathe. What do we want?
Clean air.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Clean air.
When do we want it?
Now.
Thank you, y'all.
Thank you so much. How are we feeling next to a sewage plant? Are we still riled up though? Yes. Thank you. I want to introduce some of our elected officials coming up next. Just to give a little context, we've had over a dozen officials from Newark publicly oppose this power plant over the years, including our mayor, including our speakers that will be coming up. But also, I just want to say that we've also had representation on the PVSC board itself of public opposers. We've had Newark representatives such as Councilman Trump and Councilman Quintana who have come out to say that they are against this proposal as is. We have 9 commissioners on the PVSC who will ultimately vote on whether or not we will get this fourth power plant. And at the end of this conference, we will be asking for everyone to join the 12 p.m. meeting to let them know that we need them to vote no in the interest of our health and well-being in Newark. So with that, I want to have a big round of applause, a big recognition, not just for all of our speakers that we have here today, but for yourselves. And welcome up our Senator Teresa Ruiz.
Good morning, everyone, or are we at the afternoon mark? Either way, here's where we are. When the state of New Jersey drafted the environmental justice law, which I was a prime sponsor of, we were recognizing that in the garden states, there are certain corridors, sectors, and zip codes that are saturated with pollutants. When you go on the map, on the website, and you type in almost any zip code, and I'm gonna look to my environmental experts in the back, almost any zip code in our city, it would indicate that we're in one of those areas. And what is the significance of that? Several things. That any future project would be automatically not considered because we are in a space designated that it should have been protected. And so the legislature sent a clear message. The intent was there. The regs rolled out later. The application for PVC was wrapped up in that process. The advocates have come out. The community has expressed itself. Every elected official from state level, from the federal level, from the city level has said enough is enough. A fourth power plant. Today I was participating in a Read Across America in one of our schools, and I said to them, I'm gonna have to leave, and I explained what I was going to be doing next. And I asked, as a mere show of hands, how many of you know someone or yourself that has asthma? And almost every single student in 2 7th grade classrooms raised their hands. That is a direct correlation of the environments of where we live in. We understand that authorities like this one need to do certain things to be sure that the expectations of their missions is met. And so we recognize after a Superstorm Sandy that you had to create infrastructure. But we've seen that the efforts by the energy systems, the elevation systems that were built have shown that it has proven itself and its investment worth after the storms that we've seen subsequently. So then we ask the following things. If in fact things that are put in place are working, what is the need for this fourth power plant? What is it about technology that was procured in 2017 and it is now 2024? What has changed in that 7-year time frame? I am not a science expert, but I can tell you just based on reading that technology in this space dramatically shifts on an annual basis, and that friendlier environmental opportunities to meet what we're asking for and to meet the expectations of the authority can be acquired and can be met. And so I stand here in solidarity with my families, because the people who sometimes make these decisions, and in the meetings where we had, Assemblywoman Pintor-Marin and I said, who here lives here? Who here breathes the air here? Who here is raising their child in this space? And few to none raised their hands except for the elected officials who are opposing this. This is our neighborhood. Respect us. And listen, there is a proper way and a pathway to do this. The way that we're going about it is a zero. And again, I call on DEP, and I call on our governor, and I call on this current administration to collectively work with the administration of Passaic Valley to say no more, to meet the intent of the environmental justice law, to respect what's in that, but most importantly, to respect our children here in the city of Newark.
Thank you so much. Calling up just another, there's countless elected officials, our elected officials of color, who have been against this plan. And yet still here we are fighting against this proposal. So up next, I'd like to welcome another ally in our fight, Assemblywoman Pintor-Marin.
Thank you all very much. Welcome to my neighborhood. I literally live not even half a mile from here. So obviously all the times that I've spoken against this proposed power plant, there's a personal aspect for me. I'm raising my 3 daughters here. I was born and raised in the Ironbound, and I love this city. I love this ward. Teresa and I always joke around about who has the best ward. But then we have all these issues. You come on a hot day, you're at the park. If we could bottle what we smell, I wish that everyone could have an opportunity to smell what we do. Now, fast forward, we want to add something else. My issue is this. We talk about having a healthy community. We talk about people living in a healthy way. This is not the way to do it. We have proposed so many different opportunities and issues that we can change the plan. We have to be able to go back and fix what was approved in 2017 or 2016. I forget the dates because it's how long ago it was. In Ida, I got flooded where I live in my home. They didn't. That's because PSE&G and everybody else did the work that they needed to do after Sandy. We have proven that there's resiliency and reliability. They can build another power plant or 5 more. There's nothing that's going to give you 100% resiliency and reliability. But having another power plant, you're going to end up killing more and more of the people in this community. So for me, I know Senator Ruiz came up here and talked about all of the different things that we have done in the past. there's a huge personal component for me because I want to make sure that when you go and speak to my kids, that my kids aren't raising their hands and saying that they have asthma. So thank you everyone for being here today.
I thought we could just jazz it up again with another chant. So what was it that we were sharing earlier? What do we want? Clean air. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Clean air. When do we want it? Now. Thank you. I want to call up another community partner, a leader in this fight as well, Asada Rashidi, EJ organizer with the South Ward Environmental Alliance.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Asada Rashidi, and I stand before you as a proud resident of Newark and as the environmental justice organizer for the South Ward Environmental Alliance, deeply committed to fighting for environmental justice. I am honored to stand alongside each and every one of you, united in our determination to protect our communities. Growing up in the South Ward of Newark, New Jersey, I witnessed firsthand the harsh realities of living in an environmental justice community. My backyard overlooks the second largest port in the country, an international airport, several highways, and polluting industrial facilities, similar to what we see here in the Ironbound. I am here to support my neighbors here, my friends, my family, because I understand that air knows no boundaries, and that these toxic emissions are a constant threat to the health and well-being of our community. My two brothers struggle with severe asthma and have endured life-threatening attacks. And unfortunately, they are not alone. As mentioned earlier, 1 in 4 of Newark's children suffer from asthma, but in my household, it was 2 out of 3. And the hospitalization rates are 30 times the national average. And this isn't just a coincidence. It is a direct consequence of the environmental injustice of communities like ours bearing the disproportionate burden of pollution's cumulative impacts, adding yet another source of pollution to our already overburdened neighborhood is unacceptable. And that's why I'm here today, joining forces with all of you in the fight for cleaner air. We are not just here to oppose, but we are here to demand action. We urge the PVSC board and the Department of Environmental Protection to reject this plant. We are here to hold those in power accountable for safeguarding our environment and ensuring the health and well-being of all communities, regardless of our zip code. As a young person, I've already inherited this world, and whatever happens now will only make things worse in the future. I refuse to accept a future where pollution continues to threaten the lives of our young ones. The construction of yet another pollutant facility in our neighborhood is not just a threat to the residents of Ironbound. It is a threat to all of us who call Newark a home. It is a threat to our health, our well-being, and our future. Our beloved city is not a dumping ground, and we will not stand idly by while entities attempt to further degrade our quality of life. We will not be silenced. Our voices will be heard, and we will continue to fight for environmental justice and a more sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been really nice to hear these trucks coming by. A lot of times we get an argument that this is about the work possibilities of our folks out here at Chemical Corridor. To that we say everyone deserves clean air. Everyone deserves their public health. And so we need to look at these alternatives that's not adding another fossil fuel project to a state that has goals of clean energy by 2035. The EJ law should have been considered, and so, again, really appreciate our allies, our elected officials, our community members, and community leaders that are here today. I want to pass it on to another elected official who has been supporting us and our community and of this community throughout this fight. I want to welcome up to speak next East Ward Councilman Mike Silva.
Good morning, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Councilman Silva. I represent the East Ward, and this is part of my ward. I always say I'm not a politician, I'm a public servant, because that's what I've known my entire life through Newark Police and now as the East Ward Councilman. And so sometimes when you're a public servant, you don't say the proper things. So I'm just gonna lay it out on the line like I've always said from the beginning. This facility does nothing for our community. Never did. Under my predecessor, Councilman Amador, from 1998 till today, they have nothing supported us with nothing in our community. Never come out to an event, never come out. They claim they want to be part of the community, but they're never there supporting our community. I've always said from the beginning, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm alive today. Thank God. Many don't make it. How many of our East Ward residents aren't here today because they weren't as fortunate as I was? But when, again, I'm going to repeat myself, when I asked Sloan Kettering how I got this, they clearly said Newark, New Jersey. Nothing else but Newark, New Jersey. That's how I got it. But I'm fortunate enough to stand here today and tell you my story. But again, you cannot take advantage of a community over and over again. I will not stand by and watch the governor and everyone else that's involved in trying to bring another element to this city that's going to harm our residents. I won't stand by. I won't stand by. Some of the words that come out of my mouth may not be always the appropriate thing, but I'm not going to let anybody step on us either. Okay? We've had years and years and years of that, and they want to continue to do that. I'm calling on my council colleagues, Councilman Crump and Councilman Quintana, that sit on the board, to support me in this. I know they're in a difficult situation, but they stand for Newark first before anything else. So I reach out for them. I implore them to come out and support the ICC and myself and the residents and all the other organizations that are opposed to what they're trying to do here today. Our health is not for sale. I don't care how many jobs they bring or how much they bring into the city. Our health is not for sale. And so I stand with you guys. I'm going to fight with you guys. I'm going to make sure that the message is sent out to the governor and everyone else that has something to do with this, wanting to open up this facility. And we are going to continue the fight. We are Newark strong. Thank you.
Awesome. So thank you for sharing a lot of that. Newark is not a dumping ground like we see on these signs. Newark is not a dumping ground for immigration detention centers. Newark is not a dumping ground for all of our garbage from New Jersey to come to, for all of our toilets to flush to become to, for all of the energy, lights, electricity needs of the entire state is on the back of Newark. And so we do need to put a stop to this. Like I'd mentioned before, at 12 p.m. we have a virtual meeting. And we will be asking that everyone tune in. This is an opportunity to address the PVSC Board of Commissioners directly. There are 9 commissioners who have been appointed, not elected, and they will need to vote no against this construction. They're ultimately deciding the fate of whether or not we are getting this 4th power plant. Up next, I'd like to welcome up our Chief Sustainability Officer, Nicole Hewitt-Cabral. Thank you so much. This is more representation from our state and our city.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Hewitt-Cabral. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for the City of Newark and a Newark resident. Moved here 3 years ago from New York City, from Brooklyn, and I love it. I chose here to raise my family. I have an almost 5-year-old son, so this is a community that I deeply care for and love and will fight for. At the Office of Sustainability, we're tasked with working in partnership, and I'm going to say that again, in partnership with residents, other commissions, nonprofits, governmental agencies that want to work with us to foster a cleaner, healthier, more sustainable, more resilient, and cooler city. Unfortunately, Newark is first in a number of categories. As others have said, we are first in the amount of pediatric asthma cases. 1 in 4 Newark children suffer from asthma. And I don't know if you've ever seen a child on a nebulizer, but I have, and it is painful. This is something that families in Newark have to deal with every day, and they've said no more. We want clean air, and we'll fight for that. We'll work in partnership with our neighbors, planting trees. We will create community gardens. We'll make sure that we have green space, and we'll work for that and fight for that, right? The community has spoken. They have said no to the power plant. Why have a consultative process if you're not going to listen to us anyway? Unfortunately, Mayor Ras Baraka had a previous engagement and is not able to attend, but I'm going to read a few words from him. In a city struggling to dig out from under decades of environmental injustices, the state's green lighting of Passaic River Sewage Commission's construction of Newark's 4th gas-fueled power plant comes as an assault that we are prepared to fight in court. Already fouled by New Jersey's largest garbage incinerator, choked daily by diesel fumes from thousands of container trucks, littered with more than its share of smokestacks and toxic refuse, Newark considers this decision a slap in the face to every resident. We deserve better. I'm going to say that again. We deserve better. Standing solid for the people of Newark, I wholly reject this decision and demand that PVSC's storm-related backup power source needs to be met with clean, renewable energy and grid-hardening technologies that will not threaten our health and exacerbate the climate crisis. To repeat what I have said in letters to Governor Phil Murphy, statements to the media, and public comments, Newark will not abide by any discriminatory energy project that inflicts further harm upon our residents and the workers who come here to invigorate our state's economy. There are viable alternatives to a gas-powered plant that are compassionate alternative to oppression. And there are easier and less disruptive alternatives to litigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, I'd like to call up another community leader. I'm going to be calling up a policy fellow with the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, Pasi Oluwa-Kuyide.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pasi Oluwa-Kuyide, and I am a policy fellow with the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance. I am here today to stand in solidarity with the Ironbound Community Corporation and all residents and advocates of Newark who have fought tirelessly over the past 3 years in opposition to the construction of a 4th power plant in this neighborhood. Standing here before you, I do not have the words to describe the deep frustration and outrage I feel about NJDEP's decision to approve this permit for PVSC. I joined NJEJA in August, and before that, I had the privilege of being a college student. I spent so much time in the classroom learning about concepts like environmental racism and the social cost of carbon, but I never realized how close to home some of these topics were. My very first project with NJEJA was to research the environmental justice law. For anyone who might not be familiar, the EJ law is intended to protect overburdened communities from disproportionate health and environmental impacts, and in doing so, also creates an avenue for communities to be involved in decision-making processes through meaningful participation. The EJ law was created with projects like this power plant in mind, and for communities just like Newark. An administrative order issued by Commissioner Sean LaTourette in 2021 was meant to capture the spirit of the environmental justice law, while implementation rules were waiting to be adopted. The EJ rule finally adopted in 2023, gave DEP the power to deny any new application that added to the adverse cumulative stressors of pollution that an overburdened community like Newark faces. The administrative order gave no such directive. Despite the fact that month after month for the past 3 years, community members, elected officials, concerned advocates showed up to public hearings to raise concerns about their health and well-being, inconsistencies with PVSC's application, a multitude of evidence that a fourth diesel power plant was not only necessary, but there are other viable alternatives with renewable energy if this plan had to move forward at all, every plea fell on deaf ears. It is disheartening that the voices of community members and advocates continue to be sidelined in this process, and it is even more disheartening that because of a technicality, PVSC's permit was subject to an administrative order that functionally did not treat the permit the way EJ law intended for it to be treated, with a wholesale denial. I live just 20 minutes outside of Newark in Union, New Jersey, but so much of my life is here. I have cousins that attend school at North Star. I have family that lives in the city, and I now work in the city too. Newark, home to thousands of Black and brown residents and workers, bears the brunt of environmental harm. This city hosts 3 power plants, the largest trash incinerator in the Northeast, a sewage treatment facility that serves not just New Jersey, but neighboring states as well, an international airport, and other industries that cause heavy diesel traffic, like the one we see before us today, that continue to burden this community with pollution. It is no surprise that Newark has the highest rates of asthma in the state. DEP's decision to move forward with PVSC's permit underscores the insidious reality of environmental racism, because decision makers are systematically choosing to allow our marginalized communities to be disproportionately exposed to and burdened with environmental harm. Environmental racism is not a concept that is confined to my college textbooks. This is a lived experience that affects countless lives currently and will affect future generations unless and until we decide to do better, to stop citing industry in EJ communities, and to stop letting pollution go unchecked. It's time to stop this harmful project. Join us today to voice your opposition and contact the PVSC board to demand that they halt this toxic proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude our speakers, but there is still an opportunity for all of us, everyone that's watching, everyone who has been thinking about getting involved, or whoever is hearing about this for the first time, to be involved with our fight against this proposal. At the QR code on this podium, if you scan your phone, you'll be able to enter the 12 p.m. meeting. This is one of the virtual monthly meetings that's completely public. It means that whether you live or work in Newark, whether you know someone in Newark or love someone in Newark like a lot of us do, it doesn't matter. If you care about clean air for a community who is marginalized like ours, clean air for New Jersey, a stop to fossil fuel projects that poison our communities, you can join this call. You can say something as simple as, I think there should be a vote against another fossil fuel power plant here in Newark. We will ultimately have the Passaic Valley Sewage Commission board vote whether this will happen for us or not. And so we're really looking to have as much support throughout New Jersey like we have seen for several years. Folks who are not just from Newark, but outside of Newark as well, coming together to oppose this and fight for clean air for all of us in the Garden State. We've had over 1,000 people contact the Board of Commissioners at PVSC, and so this is yet again our community coming together to fight for something very simple. We demand clean air for Newark. Thank you.